To know how serious this is, but when it comes to kids going to school, we just can't take any chances. I'm talking about the asbestos mulch issue. The New South Wales Environment Protection Authority is in crisis mode. They're scrambling to clean up the problem. This morning, 7 more schools have been identified for priority testing. Allambie Heights Public School, International Grammar School in Ultimo, Mount Annan Christian College, North Sydney Public School, Penrith Christian School at Orchard Hills, St Luke's Catholic College in Marsden Park, and Westmead Christian Grammar. 6 of these schools will remain open today. St Luke's Catholic College in Marsden Park will close. There is currently no evidence of contamination at these sites, but with testing now underway, more of this contaminated mulch is expected to pop up around the place. And on top of that, the New South Wales EPA has confirmed that other new sites have returned positive results. St John of God Hospital in North Richmond, Woolworths at Kellyville, and a transport site in Wiley Park. Tony Chappell is the CEO of the EPA, and he's on the line. Tony, good morning to you.
Good morning, Ben.
Is that an accurate summary? I mean, look, I am getting messages from people who are terrified about this, and I'm also receiving messages from others saying that all of this is an overreaction. What's your advice to anyone listening this morning?
Look, your summary's spot on. The most important point to understand about asbestos, and this is bonded asbestos we're talking about, is that provided it's undisturbed, it poses very low risk. And New South Wales Health confirm if you leave it undisturbed, that risk is minimal. I mean, it's in 1 in 3 of our homes. So the real risk comes when you disturb that through bashing into a wall, for example. Now, these are obviously each case is different. We've worked overnight through the night with each of these schools to support them in managing the potential risk while we do this precautionary testing on those sites.
Okay, what's the company saying? Because they seem to be saying that all of this is a beat up and that they've done nothing wrong.
Look, I have seen those comments. I think all I can really say is there's a major criminal investigation underway, and I understand it's also frustrating for people that seems to be taking some time. It's just important to understand it's a very complex supply chain, but also environmental criminal matters are a bit different to many regular police matters where a charge can be laid and then the investigation can continue in parallel. Under environmental law, as soon as court process starts, the EPA's investigative powers cease. So we have to finish that in a rigorous way before we can get to sort of public sharing of that information.
Okay, we should also make clear when we're talking about this mulch that we're talking about mulch that's not sold off the shelf, right? It's used by building companies and landscapers.
That's right, but it often goes through multiple hands, different contractors, a subcontractor, landscaper, and that's the exercise we're undertaking now, just to identify where it may have ultimately ended up, which is how we identified these 7 schools yesterday evening.
Okay, questions coming through, and you can understand that some of them may seem simplistic, but people just want to get to the bottom of it. Someone asking here, what type of mulch is affected?
Look, I think it's just general mulch. We understand it's been used from recycled wood. It's the kind of mulch that you see in major infrastructure projects or on median strips. Okay,
question from Kelly Sloan, the Shadow Environment Minister. Why don't we have a register of sites currently under investigation? We know about the schools, but why isn't the EPA listing all of the public sites?
Well, look, it's important to understand 90% of our tests are coming back negative or clean, and we will provide daily updates on sites that test positive. For sites under investigation, we're working rapidly through our testing and we'll obviously advise the public if there's any positive result. Sensitive sites like schools, in consultation with the school, we've just worked extra hard to share as much information as we can so that when parents or students see testing activity, they understand what's going on, and we're working alongside those school leaders. Okay,
and the company Green Life Recovery Resource Facility is saying, look, we're talking about bonded products here, not friable, which are a greater danger to human health.
Yeah, look, that's absolutely right. The historic imposition of friable material, which is sort of loose, fluffy fibres. There was a famous company here called Mr. Fluffy that did a lot of housing insulation. That's the really dangerous form of asbestos. Bonded asbestos, as long as it remains in that bonded form, bonded to concrete or another material, it presents a very low risk.
So how does it get in there in the first place?
Well, that's exactly the focus of this investigation. It shouldn't be there. It's unlawful to have contamination in mulch of any kind, and that includes asbestos.
Okay, I know that you don't want to jump ahead of that investigation, but is one of the lines of inquiry the idea that it was knowingly put in there?
Look, there's multiple lines of inquiry, and we're absolutely are running those down, including allegations of foul play or criminal conduct in a more nefarious way.
Okay, where are things at with Green Life Recovery Resource Facility? Have you inspected their headquarters? Have you conducted searches? What's actually happening with that company?
Then that's all a legal process. We're actually before the courts with that company next week, so I can't really comment on that. I'm sorry.
Okay, well, we are offering them an opportunity to speak this morning if they'd like to. Just lastly, if you don't mind, what's your advice to mums and dads who are waking up this morning and seeing their school on the list?
Each school has put in place the right measures to manage any risk. They may see an area fenced off, or children may be kept away from an area while we do this precautionary testing. And if people have direct concerns about mulch, they can always call the New South Wales Government Environment Line, 131555, where they can receive advice, and if necessary, we can arrange testing.
Okay, another question from a parent saying, how come St Luke's Catholic College in Marsden Park is shut today and the others are open?
Look, each school has received a different quantity of this product. It's gone into different areas on their campuses. I think, from my understanding, from all the conversations with my colleagues in education, St Luke's just want to take a bit more time to work through how they manage that safely for their students. The other schools are confident they can manage that directly.
We appreciate you jumping on the line, and please let us know if there's any other information that comes through between now and 9 o'clock, Tony. Thank you so much.
Pleasure, Ben.
Good on you. The EPA boss, Tony Chappell. And look, you're going to be hearing these schools frequently throughout the morning because people are waking up at different times. So I'm going to say it again. St Luke's Catholic College in Marsden Park is closed today, and that's on top of Liverpool West Public School that's currently closed and has been for most of the week. The other schools that are impacted but still open are Westmead Christian Grammar, Penrith Christian School in Orchard Hills, North Sydney Public School, Mount Annan Christian College, International Grammar School in Ultimo, and Allambie Heights Public School. Ross Fox is the lawyer that represents Green Life Resource Recovery. Ross, good morning to you.
Morning, Ben.
Now, the boss of the EPA told us earlier there's a criminal investigation underway and it will look into the possibility of foul play or criminal conduct. What do you say?
Well, I think what's important here is my clients have been given a clean bill of health in respect to the mulch that's on its site. The mulch that was supplied over the course of the Roselle project, for example, was tested 20 times by an independent laboratory, returned negative for asbestos on every occasion. It was also the remaining stockpile on my client's site was tested 12 times by the EPA. Again, it returned negative results for asbestos every time. So using that contact tracing example, my client's tested negative. The question is, what's happening upstream?
There's no other company even remotely associated with this, though, so that's why they seem to be pointing the finger at you guys.
I think the knowledge that it is a really complex supply chain. What's happening is this mulch is being supplied by my client. It doesn't actually apply the mulch to land. It just either delivers the mulch or has it delivered by another company. Once it arrives at the site, that site, most of these sites are asbestos contaminated sites, whether it be Liverpool West Public School or Campbelltown Hospital. And what's happening is it's passing through many hands, from construction companies to landscapers, landscape yards, to builders, to subbies. And what's happening is at every occasion there's an opportunity for either foul play or for that material to become contaminated with asbestos.
Okay, so you're saying the asbestos could have been there to begin with, or it could have been the builders or the subbies or someone else along the path who might have done the wrong thing. But you can see here why some people would be thinking, I don't know. I mean, the company you represent, it's the common thread.
I think what's important here is it's thrown its doors open to the EPA. It's provided whatever documents the EPA had asked for. The EPA has been over its site, and that's a process that our client supported, and it cooperated and has cooperated fully with the EPA. And I understand the EPA has just recently acknowledged that. And so what's what's basically happening here is it's now had its been given the tick, the clean bill of health. And now the question really has got to be, well, look, it is a complex supply chain. We know asbestos is everywhere.
I don't think it's fair to say it's been given the clean bill of health as of this morning, Friday, February 16, based on our conversations with the EPA. But let me just ask you this in closing, Ross. You would have had conversations with your client. Has your client ever put asbestos in mulch?
No.
Has it ever had asbestos on site?
My client runs a tight ship. What it does is it's got policies and procedures for dealing with material it receives on site to make sure that asbestos is not received on site. If there's a contaminated load, it's rejected, and it follows those processes, and no issue's been raised.
So they have discovered asbestos on site before?
Well, what happens is my client takes a really responsible approach in relation to the operation of its site. And so, if there's any suspicion of there being a contaminated load of material coming in into its site, that load's promptly rejected. And that's why it's confident in its processes and satisfied that, and that's why the testing results demonstrate both by the EPA and the other independent laboratories that it's negative for asbestos.
You've asked them the question. You've asked them, have you ever mixed asbestos with mulch?
Well, what we know is that there's a complex supply chain here.
But Ross, have you asked them the question?
What's important here is that
well, I think this is pretty important. This is the suggestion, and this is a line of inquiry, that asbestos has been mixed with mulch. The company you represent is the only company that's in the firing line here. Have you asked them the question? Have you ever put asbestos in the mulch?
My client does not put asbestos in mulch. What's happened here basically is that it's had its mulch tested. It's a licensed site. It operates according to all its approvals.
Sure, but you've asked the question, and they've said to you as their lawyer, no, right? They've said no, we've never done it. Is that what you're telling me?
Ben, I obviously can't talk to you about conversations between my client and so. Look, what I can say is that this material has tested negative. It runs a site. It doesn't have any issue. It's got confidence in its processes.
All right, but you'd acknowledge that you seem to be wavering on that question. I mean, I've asked you very, very clearly 3 times now.
I don't think there's any wavering at all.
Well, let me ask you one more time, right? Let me ask you one more time. And I
don't think that's the. I don't like I said before.
No. I'll ask one more time, and let me pretend I'm a lawyer for a moment. I'll rephrase the question, right? I'll rephrase the question. Have you asked your client the question? Have you put asbestos in mulch?
Look, I can't talk about the conversations between my client. What I can say is that it's had its mulch tested over 20 times. It's been the phrase is used, clean bill of health. That's what has been used by. I've heard that phrase from the EPA.
All right. Well, look,
what we recognise here is there's problems in the construction supply chain, and that's something that the question really needs.
Why don't you ask them the question? Why don't you say, hey, listen, just for the record, have you ever put it in there?
Look, what I've said before is that that my client runs a responsible operation.
Got all that. I just want to get to the bottom.
And it doesn't supply. It's confident in its process. It's confident that its mulch is free of asbestos, and the testing demonstrates that.
We appreciate you jumping on the line, Ross. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Ben.
Ross Fox, the lawyer representing Green Life Resource Recovery. So, look, you can make of that what you will, and I'm not jumping to any conclusions on these things because I've made the mistake of doing that in the past. And you can understand as a lawyer, he's not going to really want to go into the discussions he's had privately with his client. But isn't that the first question that you'd ask? I mean, maybe if you're a lawyer, you've got to be careful around asking questions like that, but it's the obvious one. I mean, if it was your mate who was accused of doing something, you'd pull them aside and say, hey, listen, did you do it?